name is Ned Titlow. Came to Ocean Beach in 1928. Went to Ocean Beach School, Pueblo High School in San Diego State. My father started a general insurance business in Ocean Beach in 1937, and after World War II I joined him and operated the Titlow Insurance Agency since that date. I've been active in community affairs in Ocean Beach since the middle 1960s and have been very interested in what happens and goes on in our community.
And so when was Ocean Beach Town Council founded?
Well, the Ocean Beach Town Council came into being in the mid-1960s. The city of San Diego and the police and so on decided that they wanted a combat area similar to what Boston had in where they had all the bars and all the sleazy joints all in one area, and they decided to make Lower Ocean Beach that area. And some of us didn't feel that was the correct decision, and so we decided to fight it, and out of that concern came the Ocean Beach Town Council, and it was, I think, finally came into being and organized in 1967 sometime. I can't remember the exact date, but it was in 1967. And I was elected president, and I served for the first 2 years.
What about the hippie generation? When did they come into Ocean Beach?
Well, what happened was when President Nixon said he was going to be elected, wanted to have at the convention in San Diego because San Diego was his lucky city, there was a lot of opposition to his second term from a lot of people who felt that he hadn't solved the Vietnam War problems. And with the announcement that he was going to use the sports arena as the headquarters for his election, there was a tremendous flood of alternative type people who came into our area. And since Ocean Beach was the closest part with reasonable rentals to the Midway area where the sports arena was, many of them came to the Ocean Beach area. And it was at that point that Ocean Beach brought a lot of that alternate society, hippie type person into the area.
And how did the residents feel about this sudden influx of hippies?
Well, I think that there was obviously all degrees. Some people resented it. Ocean Beach has always been somewhat boheme. We never have really... When I came to Ocean Beach, the standard joke was, are you married or do you live in Ocean Beach? Ocean Beach has always been sort of laissez-faire, open society, just an interesting place to live. And I think that a lot of people accepted the hippies for what they were. Others felt very disturbed by their presence, and I think that the biggest objection was the drugs that they brought with them. I think that was the one thing that really bothered a great deal of people, was the use, the incidence of drug use went up tremendously during that period.
What do you think? Did the OB Town Council, how did they feel about the hippies, and were they doing anything to...
Well, I don't think that, I think that the original Town Council, we had 3 ministers on the original board, and 2 ministers, I'm sorry, plus a lot of other, actually the nucleus of the Ocean Beach Town Council were drawn a large degree from churches in the area, and so I think there was a lot of concern about what was going on. I don't think there was, some were obviously hostile, but I don't think that in general there was a high degree of hostility, although I think there was an element of confusion. We really didn't know what this was all about because it was so new to us. We hadn't experienced this before. It happened in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury and so on, but that was far away and was fairly new to us here.
I heard that one of the local churches, a Presbyterian church, started a building called the In-Between.
Well, I don't think it was a Presbyterian. I thought it was the Methodist church here in Ocean Beach.
Church.
Bob Feldman was there, and they wanted to have a thing between the merchants and the people and the hippie community, so they went down to Lower Newport Avenue and established the In-Between, and as sort of a mission, so to speak, a place of meeting, a place of dialogue and so on between that element, trying to do good in the community and so on, and that's where the In-Between came into being.
I read that a lot of the residents thought the In-Between was a hangout for the hippies, and that the San Diego Free Press was handed out there, and magazines that they didn't really agree with.
Well, I think there was a rainbow of opinion. I'm sure some people resented it terribly. I'm sure there was some that could have gone down and blown it up if they had had the chance. I think others were more neutral in their attitude, and obviously some people thought it was a way of trying to bridge the gap between the hippie element and the so-called straight element. But I know for a fact there was a lot of resentment. Even in Bob's church, there was a lot of feeling that church money was going into that project, which maybe shouldn't be spent in that manner. But nevertheless, it did persist, and there was at least a majority that supported him, and they continued doing it for a long time. But I do know there were some people in his church that left the church over the fact that they were involved in that in-between activity.
I also read where the OB Town Council was trying to get them to move it, since it was causing so much controversy, to move it to another location.
During my watch, I don't remember that happening, but I'm sure that at a later date there was something done. But I think there was a problem. They located it right next to a bar, and there was a lot of problems, especially in the evening when patrons from the bar came out feeling somewhat voracious or antagonistic or something, and would run into some of these people who were not too accommodating, and there was some trouble there. And we thought maybe if it was at another location it might be better than right there next to the bar. But I don't think anybody suggested they move out of Ocean Beach. It's just another location. But that's my remembrance of it.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about the Peninsulans Incorporated?
Well, the Peninsulans Incorporated, what the city of San Diego did something, I think, which was very smart. They said that what we needed to do was to have each community decide for itself what kind of planning they wanted, rather than just put a blanket planning all over the city and say, okay, this is this. And each community would look at a general plan for their community. Then after they adopted the general plan, then we come along with what is known as the precise plan. There's actually a two-stage deal. And I was not involved at first in the general plan when it was adopted. I came in later on and went on the board of directors of Peninsulas when we were doing the precise plans for the various areas. I was also in the precise plan for Ocean Beach that the Peninsulan Inc. did. Now, the Peninsulans Incorporated were a community group, and we sought volunteers all the time, but like a lot of organizations, it was very difficult to get many people interested in donating this kind of time for this kind of project. Unfortunately, what this does, it attracts people that have an axe to grind or something else, and not everybody, I would say that on the groups were always what should we say, unprejudiced or neutral in their attitude, trying to see what was best. Some people had a definite axe to grind about this, that, or something else. And some of the people in Ocean Beach, this new group that came in, felt that the Peninsulans Incorporated really didn't represent Ocean Beach, because it was largely made up of business people and some housewives and other people who were motivated to get involved in this. And they felt that they wanted a part of it. And so the city then redrew the group, the precise plan of Ocean Beach, to include 5 members from this. I don't like the word hippie particularly, but if you're using it, the hippie group, and 5 from the old Peninsulans Inc. group, and then 5 new members from the businessmen and so on in Ocean Beach. And those 15 then worked on the plan to bring it to fruition. And at the very last minute, there was a number of changes, but that's neither here nor there.
I heard that the Peninsulans, did they want high-rise hotels here?
Let me tell you that little story. And I really, this is my, I have really an axe to grind with the city on this one. There was a planner that came out to us and told us that the only way this plan would succeed, Ocean Beach plan would succeed, is if we zone the waterfront for high-rise. And we objected to this, so finally they limited it to down just about where the entrance of the channel was. It was about 4 blocks in there that could be zoned for high-rise. A lot of us felt very strongly that we just didn't like this at all. But we were told that this thing would not fly. They needed that kind of an operation in order to get the rest of the plan in. And so we bought into the city plan, saying, okay, well, if that's the way it has to be, that's the way it has to be, and we'll go to the community. Well, the community didn't like this at all. And the city turns up and says, well, your planners are the ones that planned this, you know. I mean, You know, I mean, what the heck? We're just here to advise them, but they wanted the high rise. Well, I felt we got stabbed in the back by the city planning department because that was not our idea. That was their idea, and they kept insisting it had to happen if this thing was going to be successful. We did also zone some of the waterfront as commercial, but not high rise, where motels or other things could go in. But I really didn't want the commercialization of Ocean Beach. But you know, a guy who's spent all his life as a planner or has gone to college for 4 or 5 years and knows all the things and says this is what it has to take, otherwise it ain't going to work. Why, eventually you buy into that, and I guess we shouldn't have done it, but at the time it seemed like that was the solution to the problem because we believed in what was being told to us, which wasn't really the greatest idea. But anyway, then we got dumped on about that. When you were right, they did plan high-rise. The original plan called for high-rise down at the foot of Voltaire and down in that area right next to the flood control channel.
Well, at least you won in the end, right?
Well, yes.
Kind of.
The thing was defeated.
Yeah. What about the big protests against Collier Park, and because it was being sold to builders maybe, and the jetty project, big protests about the jetty and the Mission Valley Marina?
Well, as far as Collier Park was concerned, when they wanted to build a school over there, which is now Silva, but originally was called Collier's, the junior high school, we said there was another lady, and I can't remember her name, and I came to me and she said, Ned, she said, they're going to turn that chunk of that park over to the school system, and I really think that the park should be kept as a park. I said, I agree. So she arranged for a meeting at Ocean Beach School, and we circularized the community and said, you know, the school is taking over this part of the park and shouldn't be done and so on. Went to the meeting, and she and I spoke, and there were about 8 people in the audience, and a member of the school board. And he got up and told us what dirty people we were and how nasty we are, preventing a school from going in there and so on. And after the meeting, I told her, I said, look, I said, 2 against the thing. If nobody more than this is interested in it, I said, I don't think we have much of a chance. And the thing was voted out of park into schools. The rest of the park went into mostly those ball fields and so on. There was one segment right up next to the tennis club that several builders brought in plans to build there. And there was the problem there was that some of that was going to be low-cost housing. And the people in the tennis club came in mass, said because of the traffic problems and the circulation and all this other stuff, they really didn't approve of this, and they were effective in stopping it. But the thing was that there was primarily, my own subjective feeling was, it was the feeling that the low-cost housing was certainly part of their concern.
What about the protests that were going on, supposedly peaceful protests, and they were going to meet in Collier Park, and then the police showed up? And
well, I can't speak to that. I really am not. I'm not much aware of that activity. I wasn't involved in it, and I just don't really remember much about it.
Okay. Do you know anything about the big protest about the jetty project?
Yeah. Okay. You're talking about Collier Park. I was thinking the other side. On this side, where the old Door of Hope used to be, and now they put an apartment house at the foot of Bolina Street. Right below it there was an open area. And you're right, that part there was, they were talking about selling that off instead of making it a little community park. And there was a lot of protest for that.
To a guy that owned property in Torrey Pines.
Well, I don't know who was trying to buy it, but anyway, they protested and said they wanted to keep it. And the city said, well, there's eucalyptus trees there and they get brittle and fall down and might kill somebody, and we don't think we ought to have a park there and so on, which is sort of a lame brain excuse, but that's one of them that they use. But anyway, there was enough opposition to prevent that from going in. Actually, those lots there going down on Soda Street used to be the old city barns. They used to keep all the mules and horses there and the wagons, and they used to, in those days they didn't have 4-wheel drive, so they used to go down and keep the beach clean. They had horse-drawn wagons and rakes and so on. That's the one that used to rake up the kelp at Ocean Beach and Mission Beach and so on. They had a big barn there with 40, 50 horses and so on. I happened to live near there, and I used to go over and watch the horses. Oh, it's an interesting place. Anyway, I'm sorry. You're talking about the jetty?
Yes. What about the where there hundreds of people showed up and they were like trying to push over the bulldozers and?
I remember
committee to save Ocean Beach?
I remember there was a media event of some sort, but I really I don't really remember that much about about what it was. I think that I really don't. It seems to me that the jetty on the Ocean Beach side, that's the one that stopped short. Something happened there and it didn't go as far with it as they were going to or something, but I just don't.
Okay. Do you know anything about any of the hippie protests, or
Well, some of them, yes, right.
like what type of things were going on, and why were they protesting, and how did the
Well, I think they
residents
were
react?
against any more development in Ocean Beach. I think they thought that the quote cheap housing was going out and more expensive apartments were coming in and so on. I remember there was one meeting that they said that this had to stop and what was going on had to go, and the next night the biggest new apartment in Ocean Beach burned to the ground. So I feel they were activists. Obviously, I don't know who did it or what, but it seems sort of coincidental that thing should happen. But anyway, and it was torched, it wasn't arson fire. But anyway, that was the one at the foot of Narragansett. But they were, Ocean Beach was a series of protests. I mean, anything that happened, there was a protest going on. So you got sort of satiated of it. After a while, I sort of blurred a little bit. I'm not that. I wasn't involved in it. I just remember that one where they were talking about the apartments. I did stand at the edge of that for a while and listen to them. But outside of that, I really wasn't involved in that. Sorry.
It's okay. So, do you think that the influx of hippies in Ocean Beach in the late 60s, early 70s helped give Ocean Beach a bad reputation?
Well, obviously, I think, I really don't think that they themselves, I don't feel that antagonistic about it. But I think that what they brought in the way of drugs and a drug culture, I think that made Ocean Beach, gave it a real black eye, because for a while the police said there was more drug activity in Ocean Beach than any other place in town. The parking lot at the foot of Newport, I used to go down and walk the bridge, walk the pier at times, and I used to stand there and watch. And you could see deals going down all over the place. Sailors coming out and a lot of other people, they were dealing all through the place. It was really a rather dangerous place to live. That's where that policeman got shot that time, and they chased the guy down the street.
What happened? What happened at that event?
Well, there was a police officer sitting in his car, and I'm not quite, but anyway, this guy came up, and either the policeman asked him something, or he came up down to the policeman, he pulled out a gun and shot him. And of course, he went on down the street, and there was somebody followed him and told the police to which house he went, and they surrounded the house, and he finally came out and surrendered. But they finally went in and got him, I guess. So, but anyway, he was tried for it. Fortunately, the policeman wasn't killed; he was badly injured. But there was another policeman injured in the firefight that went on. But it was quite a deal. I went down to the foot of Newport and had my field glasses, and not Newport, and down the foot of Narragansett where the pier was, and went on there and used the field glasses to watch it. And it was police all over the roofs and everything else, just like one of the see on television. Quite a deal. But I think that, in a way, I think that about that time was sort of a turning point. I think that a lot of people sort of turned off in this attitude that they were promulgating and so on. And I don't think that they had. After that, I think they had less support than they had previously, because a lot of people felt that they were for the people, and whatever.
So do you think, what do you think about the revitalization program that's going on now?
Well, I think it's great. I think it's great. When we were in the town council, we thought we'd try to get everybody to go into a nautical type of thing. That's where those old light standards came in, with made like a yard arm with things coming down and so on. And 2 or 3, the Peninsula Bank changed their decoration on the inside, and also that's the same time that the was now Silvergate. It was now Western Savings and Loan there at Newport and Sunset Cliffs. They did all their nautical stuff, and 2 or 3 others did too. But unfortunately, we didn't have any money. We tried to do it by influence and suggestion and so on and try to get people to cooperate, but it really didn't ever get taken off. So I think this with money behind it is a real great idea. I think it's fine. About that same time, the Kiwanis of the Chamber of Commerce put in all those old palm trees, and that was, I think, a real plus. Joe Richardson was largely responsible for that. Did a lot of work on it anyway.
So do you think Ocean Beach's reputation has changed from the 60s?
Well, I think that people, the thing about San Diego is there's so many new people coming in here. After 4 or 5 years, half the people are new and they don't remember what happened on before. So I think the so-called quote reputation of Ocean Beach is largely a thing of the past. And I just don't think you see the drug deals down at the foot of Newport or all that stuff. That's pretty much past. In fact, the problems now are not really are a different type of problem. I think it's more family-oriented things to this or what have you. It isn't the overdose and all this other stuff that went on previously. I think Ocean Beach is, we've had good times and bad times, and I think that that was certainly one of the lower points of our existence here.
But it has helped to
it definitely
bring us to where we
yes,
are
well,
today.
I think that anything that revival the business district obviously is one of the keys to any area, and the fact that the business district has been, they've cleaned it up, and if you look at the new construction that's been going on there in Niagara, there's 3 new big complexes in the Peninsula Bank just redid their thing and put in new stuff next door. So, and I think there's the ongoing improvement of the beach, and then also encouraging people to redo the fronts with that $10,000 grant and so on. I think it's great. I would like to see a little more prime business come into the area rather than so much. I wouldn't use the word service industries, but antique stores, things like this is not the genre of a real hot area, because they usually look for rents that are a little bit less. But nevertheless, I think it gives Ocean Beach an ambience, which is fine. I have no problem with any of it.
So you don't think it's changing Ocean Beach's ambience?
Well, I think it's upgraded it some. There's no doubt about it that it's nicer now than it had been, and I think that really Ocean Beach is one of the sleepers on the coast. Really, the property values there are such that when you go and look at Pacific Beach or La Jolla or Del Mar and these other places and see what they paid for oceanfront property, then you come into our area and see what they've been paying for, and it really is, it's a reasonable place. And I think that keeping the ratio of building to ground low is good, because it'll prevent this mass apartment building and so on that's gone on in Pacific Beach and areas of Pacific Beach is so terrible. I just don't really care for that at all. Mm-hmm. When you crowd people together, it does something to the spirit. That's just all it's to it. I just like to have some openness around me. So that's where I think, as I say, I've lived Ocean Beach all my life. When I got here, it was scattered houses and so on. It was really a sort of a rural community almost, and I've seen it come all the way, and I still like it, but I don't really care to see too much more intensive development. I'd like to see gradual replacement of the older houses and so on, and something more contemporary, but I like old houses too. In fact, I own one of the oldest ones in Ocean Beach. It was built in 1907, so.
Not this one?
No, not this one. No, it was over in Ocean Beach. I have some rentals over there, and one of them was this. In fact, the barn was built from wood that washed down the flood of 1916. They went down with a wagon, picked up all this wood, and came back, built a barn for their horse in the back. Now it's a garage.
It's still really rural up out towards
the wooded area.
Knobs.
They call it the wooded area.
Yeah,
yes, right. That's been kept that way. Those people don't want paved streets and so on. The city wants to come in here and want to pave this and put in curbs and so on. No.
Yeah,
So
it's nice over there.
Yeah, we like it there too.
Okay, I think that sounds good. Okay.